You know what really impresses the women? Implied metric modulation. Seriously though, I think the only people that implied metric modulation impresses are drummers and other nerdy musicians. But it is a concept that we need to learn because it can expand our thinking, it can expand our timing and how we function in the music. And that's what it all goes back to, is the music. So whenever you pull these things out, be sure that it's a musical place that you can use it, that it's players that can play off of what's going on, and you can create a magical musical moment and not just math. That's what we want to avoid. And I'm sorry to say, the title is a joke. This is a throwback to an older lesson that I did, and I was like, there was the funniest topic I could think up at the time was like, what would impress girls on the drum set? And one of the things was like, you know, implied metric modulation. It started making me laugh. And so I came up with the first part of this years back, and that is how to impress your girlfriend with implied metric modulation, which is not going to happen. And I tell a story about how Kelly, I used to play things, and I would think that was going to impress her, but really what impressed her was like an actual good song, and so that taught me a lot over the years. But anyway, we're going to jump over on the drum kit. The sheet music for this lesson is below. Again, this is not a beginner topic, but I think you should check it out to see where you could take things, to see how you actually use polyrhythms, and to see how you can apply different times to create a musical moment.
Alright, so now that we've established that we're using the title to make light of a more complex subject and one that should absolutely be driven by the music, that's how I found out about this. I can't stress that enough. Let's dive into it. So I've done another lesson on this, and if you really want to go in depth on this lesson series, as I said before, you can go, I've got actually 2 different courses in the members area in the Drum Better Daily program on just implied metric modulation and how to play with time. It is a very advanced topic, so we only need to use this with musicians that can handle it, and only whenever the music calls for it. Only whenever we feel like we can add it and it's a musical thing. So that would be the only criteria. So how do we go about this? Well, obviously it deals with polyrhythms and kind of cutting that up in time within time. But we can look at different subdivisions. And so implied metric modulation for me is any time we give the feeling, right? So this isn't actual metric modulation. We're not actually moving to a new time signature. We're not actually moving to a new tempo. We're just suggesting that that is happening. We're fooling the listener's ear, right? So how to lose a bass player, right? It's that game. And so what we want to do is we want to use subdivisions that we are accustomed to, and we want to split them up in different ways. And so I'm going to give you some pretty simple, well, not simple, but I'm going to give you some examples. Let's do that. We're going to use the dotted 8th note, and we're going to use quarter note triplets, and then we're just going to use regular triplets to break up a regular groove. Now, the thing about a polyrhythm is we need to be able to count both sides of it, okay? So if we're doing quarter note triplets, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, triplet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need to be able to go through that and count both sides of that polyrhythm, and in that case it would be a 3/2 type of a polyrhythm. But even going deeper, we have to be able to split that up into larger chunks so that we can make grooves out of that. All right, so I'm going to give you an example of this, and I'm going to use a really, really simple groove. So we're going to do 1 and then 3 and on the kick, 2 and 4 on the snare, 8 notes on the hi-hat. So that's going to be our groove. Now we can take that and we can move it to the various subdivisions if we want to. So here's the subdivisions we're dealing with. So we've got quarter note triplets, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. So it makes it feel like feels like it's slowing down. Then we have the dotted 8th note, so it feels like it's slowing down even more. 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 E and a 3 a 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and 4 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 then we have triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Triplet, 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 triplet. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our bass rhythm is always there, and so we can use those different subdivisions to imply that we're going somewhere else. All right, so let me give you an example of that. And again, if you want to go deep into this, I've got a ton of stuff on it in the members area over on the website, so you can check that out. As well, download the sheet music. It's below in a pinned comment and in the video description. So I'm going to go through this. I'm going to count both sides of it so that you can hear kind of how that works too. And I'm going to go with the quarter note triplet, and I'm going to count both sides, and then I'm going to go to the dotted eighth note. I'm going to count both sides, and then I'll go to triplets and count both sides and just give you demonstrations. And I'll just say my goal is to represent that groove exactly as it is. So I'm just taking those notes and I'm moving it to the new subdivision so that it feels like that groove has slowed down, like we've been dropped into not a new time signature. I use implied metric modulation to refer to time signatures and feeling like the time has slowed down or sped up. All right, so we're implying both of those are metrically modulating in different ways. So this one will imply that it's sped up or slowed down. In this case, slowed down with the triplets and the dotted eighth notes, and sped up with the triplets. So there you'll see examples of me counting both sides of it, but that is essentially what implied metric modulation is. It makes it feel like we've gone to a new time signature, or we've sped up, or we've slowed down, but we're just implying that. And that's a very abrupt example, but that's an example of how that looks, in that we can count both sides of it. We understand what we're doing so that you have control of it, because there's nothing worse than getting in the middle of something and forgetting that. Usually what leads the way for this type of a thing is there's some melodic riff that has happened, there's some idea that has happened, you know, maybe it's off the dotted eighth, and maybe you're here, that's the perfect example of something that's like, okay, cool, we can latch onto that idea and go with it, but it's no good if you lose yourself or you lose the band. So again, this is more of a complex topic, but I get asked about it, and I do have a lot of resources for it, two full courses in the Drum Better Daily program. But this is just an example of going deeper within rhythm and then using that in a musical way. So please don't pull this out in a gig, you know, where you're doing a bunch of cover songs. That's not what this is for, even though the title is a joke. It is meant to simply be another way that we can expand our musical palette. And again, the music needs to lead this. Somebody wasn't like, have you heard about implied metric modulation? It's not how that happened. It's like, I heard it. I heard like Tony Williams. I'm like, what, you know, and several others, Dave King, lots of players. And I'm like, what are they doing? Like, it sounds like they're in, but everybody else isn't. But they went to like this weird place for a second, then they pulled it back. And then when I started dissecting, I'm like, oh wow, and my teachers were like, yeah, that's implied metric modulation. Like, you know, get nerdy on it. Here's the theory on what's happening there. And so use this as a gateway to kind of become a better musician. This is just the first part of this series, just a little kind of series I'm doing on some fun you can have with implied metric modulation. So leave me a comment. Let me know your favorite song that has something like this in it. I'm always interested to hear what you all have to say as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Click that notifications bell so that you can always be notified when I'm going live or whenever there's new content coming up and publishing every week. And then if this has helped you, hit that thumbs up button and share it with somebody that you think it may help as well. But whatever you do, I'll see you here in the next lesson.